Hello, Carol here. Coming to you from Brittany, France on this very wet February day. It's been raining all week, and so we're better off inside making these patchwork blocks. I've been having a play around with this ruler. I purchased this ruler second hand, and also our local patchwork club owns a ruler like this, and then they have another one which is a 45-degree half square triangle ruler, and I'll show you the results of that block later. So of course, to do this block you don't need to have this ruler, but it's just so much fun to have, isn't it? So let's give it a try. I am going to use my rotary cutter. I've got a small one and a big one. I thought that the small rotary cutter might be better for getting in between the triangles, but it wasn't, because the blade isn't as deep. So the standard one is the best one to use, in my opinion. And we're going to start by cutting out some strips. A little change of style. I'm going for wax material this time, orange and a contrasting blue. And a little word about colours. You maybe want to do a dark, medium and a light to get a good contrasting effect, or contrasting colours. I think it's just best to have a play around with it. After I've cut my two 1.5 inch strips, I'm going to cut my most predominant piece of fabric. This is going to be 2.5 inches. And then we're ready to rock and roll. Off we go. We're going to make a tube. So these are my colours, my blue-orange combo, and then a kind of pinky cream. I'm going to start by sewing the two thinner strips together. So you can't really tell on mine, but right sides together. And I'm going to sew down with my 1/4 inch foot. And then I'm going to press it open to usually the darker side. Then we're going to place this double strip right side down onto the 2.5 inches strip. So right sides facing each other. So one on top of the other like that. And we're going to sew up both sides now. So that's what I mean by sewing a tube. Whiz down one side, spin it over, and then whiz up the other side. And now all we have to do is follow the triangle ruler. So where there's these broken lines, the pointillés, the little dotted lines, you put them along the sewing lines, as so. I have found that I can only cut maybe 2 out at a time, and then I have to readjust the sewing lines and the dotted lines. But this is a quicker way of doing it. And the rotary cutter cuts right down into that dip there. Magic. Isn't that lush? Then all we have to do is open up the top of each triangle, which is literally attached by a feel, hanging by a thread. And if we have any trouble opening it up, we can always get a seam ripper and take out the 2 or 3 stitches that's holding it. There, I'm lining it up carefully again. And now let's open them up. My favourite part I feel like I'm opening up a little gift, a little package just for me. And because of the way that we've cut the triangles, we get two different squares. So a one that's going to have a red point and a one that's going to have a blue point. So with that, we can have a little bit of fun playing around with the construction of the block. All the blue corners together, and then we can try one with the red corners together, or we could change them all around. I think this might be nice as a border to a quilt as well, even maybe using just 2 squares instead of the 4 squares together. Anyway, lots of options. I like it. Who am I kidding? I love this. You could sit around all day and do this. Bit of red, bit of blue. Right, you have to decide on something and then sew them all together. So at this point, you might have to rethink where your seams are sitting on the back. So you try and match them up. So one seam's going one way and the other one's going the other way, so they nest together. And then I chop off these little ears at the top as well, because that gets in your way when you're sewing it up. Little pin in, because these seams are a bit tricky. So the bottom 2 I'm going to sew together, the top 2 I'm going to sew together, then I'm going to open them out and then sew them 2 halves together. And oh, the anticipation. Have you got your seams right? Perfection or a dog's dinner? Let's have a look at the finished results. Well, it's good enough for me. Look at that. Lovely. VV nice. VV nice, don't you think? So all blue in the middle, at least. A bow tie. Red and blue bow ties in the middle. And I didn't have quite enough to do the all red in the middle, so I switched it up. And there we go. I like them. I might do a bag with that. I've got my eye on a bag. If I do one, I might do a video on the bag, or I might just put it on Instagram. Depends on how happy I am with the bag. And then these are the ones with my tissu ancien. Browns, blues, and a little bit of dusty pink. There was a fabric fair at the weekend, and I was thinking about pairing these colours up with this bit of leather that I bought. It's kind of a green colour, and I think I like these colours together. I think. Decisions. I don't know. Something I like about it. I'll have to have a think. So there's that. And then finally, I've got a couple more blocks to show you. I've got this block that I'm going to make into a zipper pouch. I've already started putting another little border on. I just need to have a little bit of time. I've got a couple of 12-hour shifts to get out the way first, and then I'll do that. And then these are the ones that I made at the Patchwork Club, all with the 90-degree angle ruler. And now I'll show you the results of the other ruler. This was the 45-degree angle ruler. Exactly the same principle. You cut out a 2.5-inch strip and two 1.5-inch strips, exactly the same. It's just cut on a different angle. And then when you sew the triangles together, you get these squares. And then you can put them all together and make a windmill block. And the more contrast there is, the more the windmill pops out. I found this block actually easier to make because there's less seams to match up, because you're always sewing a seam side with a plain side. See, wouldn't that be a nice border? It would be lovely. Right. Well, I hope it's given you some ideas. I've enjoyed myself. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.